Welcome to my channel, The Soapbox, and my name is Desiree Cochran Norfolk. I am an addiction counselor. I am also a anger management counselor, and I do family violence. Today we're going to be talking about self-control, and this is specifically for substance abuse, but you can apply in other areas of your life. So I want you to think about what is one area in which your self-control is lacking. And that can be in any area. It doesn't necessarily have to be in substance abuse. So, I want to talk about self liberation. This is your belief in your ability to change. And then when we have a belief that we can change, that we will have a commitment to alter the behavior. So, if I think that I can do something, then I'm more likely to say, you know what, I will do that. And so a long time ago, I was walking. There's a track, like a security guard track around Metro State Prison. That's a prison around here in Atlanta, and it was shut down. So there was like no. This was the guard track that they used to use, and this place was like super creepy because it's down in a hole and it was like dark in the mornings, and then there's like, because there's like water nearby, there's fog over the hole, and there was always a light on in the building. And this is the place where they used to send all the women to, like from the jails. Like when you first get into prison, it's called a diagnostic center. They have to do your diagnostics and stuff. And then this was also the place where they housed like the death row inmates, and they did the actual like lethal injections and electric chair and stuff. Like they did all of that here. So this is a creepy place. And I would walk around this track and I'd always see like a light on in the building. And I don't know why I cared so much, but I was like, this place, is just costing taxpayers money just sitting here like this. Like, and they're running electricity and probably like doing maintenance on the building and stuff. So like having to pay staff, and like this is just sitting here costing us money. And we could be using this to like house homeless people. We have such a huge homeless population here in Atlanta, and you just see them like in Tent City, and like the homeless shelters are overrun. Like, why can't we just get this building and like turn it into a place that can like actually help people? So I got this red notebook and I started like asking questions of people, like, what do you think you would need when you get out of prison to like get back on your feet? And so I came up with like 10 areas. And so my idea was to take this old prison and turn it into what I was envisioning as a reentry center. And this is where people can come like at the end of their sentence or like after they get out, and just have some like resources available in the actual facilities. So like have people from the community come to the facility and like have offices there, like employment services and healthcare services and substance abuse services, and job skills and life skills, and do classes there for free, and just have like this whole 360 approach to helping people to get back on their feet when they get out, because people have nothing when they get out. They lose everything. And a lot of these people don't have like family members or friends or anything that will be willing to help them. And so our recidivism rate across the country is like 70%. And in Georgia, it's 30%. And so I really wanted to do something to help those people to not go back to jail. If you're hungry and you don't have enough money to buy food, what are you going to do? You're going to steal it, right? And you might rob somebody or commit a crime. And I just wanted to help. And so I put down all these ideas in this red notebook, and I just couldn't, for some reason, come up with a way for this particular business model to make money, because I didn't want to charge the people that were getting out. Of course, they don't have any money, and it was supposed to be like a short-term transitional type of situation. I know we already have the transitional centers, but this was going to be different than the transitional centers. And so I came up with this number of $20 million. And I couldn't find one person that would ever give a company $20 million to open a business that doesn't make money. And so I got disheartened, and I threw that red notebook underneath my bed. and it sat there collecting dust for like 3 years. And then I started a nonprofit organization with a couple of other people. It was called the Greater Gwinnett Reentry Alliance. And we grew from the 5 of us to over 450 service providers in the Greater Gwinnett area, right outside of Atlanta. And there was a lot of service providers in Atlanta as well that were members of our organization. And we were working to make sure that the people in different agencies were talking to each other. So we had monthly meetings just to introduce people to each other so that there was an idea of what services were available, because a lot of people don't know what is available to them. And that's part of what self-liberation is knowing that I have the resources to do this. And I can do this, and so I will do this. And we wanted to make sure that people had that self-liberation. So we got the eye of the governor at the time. It was Governor Deal, and he came and he spoke, and we met some of his criminal justice coordinating council members, and I developed a friendship with one of them, and he followed me on Facebook, and I made this video that I posted on YouTube, which is like one of my first videos. And I guess he heard the idea and presented it to Governor Deal, and Governor Deal asked Congress for $20 million and was able to get the money and actually turned it into the country's largest reentry facility. So I didn't think that I had the resources to do it. But once I did have the resources, or at least the connections to the resources, I was able to present that idea to the right people. So dusting off that old notebook and saying, I can get this done. I may not be able to do it myself, but at least I can get this done. And that's what self-liberation is all about, is just believing that you can do something. Because if I don't believe that I can do something, I'm not even going to take the first step to even try to do it. So what we're doing today, we're going to start with a fun little exercise. I'm going to show you a series of slides, and your task is to say the color or the word as directed. So for the first 4 slides, I just want you to say the word out loud that you're reading. Not the color of the word, just read the word on the screen for the first 4 slides. The second 4 slides, I want you to say the color of the word, like what color is actually printed on the word, okay? I just want you to see how quickly you can do this. Now say the color of the actual word. This one is green. So how is it different for you? How is it different to read the first 4 slides than it was to read the last 4 slides? Well, it's a little bit different because on the last 4 slides, you're having to look at first the color of the background, and then the first thing that your brain wants to do is read the actual word. And then we see the color of the background, and so that kind of throws us off. And then we see the color of the actual word. And so it takes a few more mental steps and maybe a millisecond longer for you to say the answer out loud. And so this is similar to a psychological test that's used to measure the self-control ability of people. We know that difficult tasks require delay and decisions. So most often we're going to act on impulse and with a lack of self-control. It can kind of be like our automatic pilot is driving there. We're responding without making a conscious, present choice and following through on it. Our level of self-control is not predetermined or unchanging. We know that. We're not born with just a certain amount of self-control, and then, that's all we get during life. We can work on it. It's like a muscle. We exercise it, we strengthen it, and we can also weaken it by consistently giving in to automatic responding. So if it's something that I normally do, like smoking a cigarette, like every time I'm stressed, I go and I smoke a cigarette. If I consistently do that, my self-control when I get stressed is going to be weaker when it comes to smoking cigarettes. Or if we have to exercise self-control over a long period of time, like I have to deal with customers all day long, or a boss that gets on my nerves or a coworker or something, then, all day long I'm having to exercise self-control not to punch somebody in the face. And then, by the end of the day, my self-control is going to be so weak that I'm not going to stick to my diet. I'm going to eat that bowl of ice cream. Or it can be weakened when we have to engage in a particularly challenging task. I don't know about any mechanics out there or anything, but like if you've ever tried to break a bolt that was stuck on a car, I don't know about y'all, but I've thrown a wrench or two in my lifetime. Just, you know what, screw this. And I went to go smoke a cigarette. And so if we have to do something that's particularly challenging, it can weaken your self-control in those particular situations. So what I want you to do, we're going to do a 10-item self-scoring self-control scale, and that takes self-control to say that. We're going to work on this self-scoring scale. And so you're going to read the 10 statements that are listed on this next slide, and I want you to rate how closely or not each statement relates to your behavior. So this answer scale has 5 options, and each option has a numerical score that's related to the corresponding statement. I'll show you. All right, so questions number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want you to pay attention because 1, 2, 3, and 4, not at all like me is a 1, a little like me is a 2, somewhat like me is a 3, mostly like me is a 4, and very much like me is a 5. But when you get down here to question number 5, the answer choices change. So not at all like me is a 5, a little like me is a 4, somewhat like me hasn't changed, it's still a 3. Mostly like me is a 2, and very much like me is a 1. So next to each question, I want you to put your score based upon how closely related it is to you. So number 1, others say that I'm very self-disciplined. Number 2, if I know something's not good for me, I choose not to do it. Number 3, I'm good at resisting when I feel tempted. Number 4, I'm good at staying focused on my long-term goals. And again, number 5, the answer choices change, so please be aware of that and make sure you select the correct number. Number 5 is I do what I want even if it's bad. Number 6, it's difficult for me to rid myself of bad habits. Number 7, I wish I was better at resisting temptation. Number 8, I find it hard to focus on my responsibilities if I have the chance to do something fun. Number 9, sometimes even when I know something is wrong, I can't resist doing it. And number 10, I tend to act before thinking through a decision. Now I want you to add up your total scores and divide by 10 to get your total score. And when we divide by 10, all we have to do is move the decimal place over one place to the left. So if you got a 35, your answer is going to be a 3.5. If you got a 24, your answer is going to be a 2.4. If you got a 47, your answer is going to be a 4.7. Now, the maximum score on the scale is a 5, which is extremely self-controlled, and the lowest score on the scale is a 1, which means not at all self-controlled. So this self-control assessment gives you an idea of your current tendency to control and consciously choose your actions. So I want you to journal about this, write this down in your notebook. How was the result of your assessment accurate, or how was it not accurate? Do you agree or disagree with your score? How do you feel about the current strength of your self-control muscle? What about when you're trying to do something that's easy? What about when you're trying to do something more difficult? I hate broccoli, and my husband is very good at cooking. He cooks a lot in the kitchen, and he will go in there and he'll make dinner sometimes. And so if he goes in there and he's got a bowl of broccoli and I walk into the kitchen and he says, Desiree, don't eat that broccoli. We need that for dinner. my self-control is gonna be at a 5. I'm gonna be extremely self-controlled there because it's very easy for me to say no to the broccoli. But if my husband had some cupcakes sitting on the counter and said, Desiree, don't eat those cupcakes, that would be more difficult for me to do because I love sweets. I love eating cupcakes. And so trying to do something more difficult, like not eat the cupcake, is going to prove to be a little bit harder for me. And so my self-control might have to be utilized a little more in that situation. So I might be at like a 3, maybe, or maybe even a 2 with my self-control for trying to do something more difficult. And so I want you to also answer this question. What are the things that seem to make your self-control muscle weaker? Is it stress? Is it anxiety? Is it having a negative emotion like depression or anger? Is it being in a particularly challenging task? So keep in mind here that the more that we have to use self-control to manage our everyday challenges, the weaker and the more exhausted that it gets. And the weaker that we are, the more difficult it is to meet the challenges of changing our behaviors. Like if I've had a really stressful day, staying on a diet is going to require self-control strength. So after that long day at work or a stressful event, it's going to be harder for me to stick with my diet. I also want you to answer the question, how do you think you could build or exercise your self-control muscle? What are some of the things that you think you could do to build it or strengthen your self-control? Feel free to pause the video here and answer some of these questions. So research actually shows that when we put in an effort to build our self-control or self-regulation in one task, it actually leads to greater self-control in other unrelated tasks. So like, for example, if we go exercise and we lift weights, it can make us stronger, and we can utilize that strength to lift a heavy package off your front doorstep when you order from Amazon again and you don't want your husband to see that. Right? So doing things that are hard or require focus actually build self-control strength. It doesn't necessarily have to be something extremely hard, but just like with lifting weights, a small incremental exercise can lead to becoming progressively stronger. Just think about it. Like when you go to the gym, you don't want to go to the gym and start out with the 500-pound weight. That'd be too much, right? We might go to the gym and start out with a 5-pound weight, and then go to the 10 pounds, and then 15, and then 20. We're going to progressively get a little bit more and more and more just to challenge ourselves just a little bit, but we're going to get progressively stronger. I noticed that, as my child was growing, my child was 9 pounds when he was born, and so I wasn't used to carrying around 9 pounds, so it was kind of difficult for me at first carrying this baby around all the time. My arms were fatigued a lot. But after a while, it got a little bit easier. And then he started to grow, and he was no longer 9 pounds, he was 12 pounds, and then he was 15 pounds, and then he was 20 pounds, and then he was 25, and then 30. And now I find it easier for me to lift 30 pounds or 40 pounds because I'm constantly lifting this 40-pound baby every time we go out somewhere. And I'm not fatigued anymore. But each time that he grows, I get a little bit stronger because I'm constantly lifting him. And so we have to be careful not to try too much too quickly. But every task needs to be challenging. I don't want to go to the gym and start out with a 500-pound weight. That'd be too much for me. I'd give up and say I can't do this. So when it comes to substance abuse, we can't say, oh, well, I just quit drinking, so I'm going to go sit in a bar and test myself to see if I can do this. Or I'm going to go with my friends and everybody's drinking and I'm just going to sit there and not do it. That's your 500-pound weight. And I would caution you, in the early stages of recovery, those 500-pound moments are likely to produce relapse and you giving up and going back into that old behavior. The saying is true, if you go sit in the barber shop, eventually you'll get a haircut. And I have a saying as well, every time you go to the beach, you have a 100% chance of getting sand on you. No matter how hard you try not to get sand on you, you're going to get sand on you. So if you go to the bar, eventually you're going to drink. If you go around other people who are smoking or using substances, eventually you're going to join in with them. That's your 500-pound weight. We don't want to start there. We want to do something simple. So I want you to work on this exercise to strengthen your self-control muscle. And I'm going to show you on the next slide a reference sheet so you can work on strengthening that self-control muscle. You're going to list some areas in your life that require a stronger self-control response. And you're also going to identify some practices that you can start doing immediately to start working out and building your self-control muscle. So for this particular question, like what can you do to strengthen your self-control muscle? You can use your non-dominant hand to do everyday tasks like brushing your teeth, combing your hair, using your utensils, just doing extra things. I haven't been able to use my right arm for a while. I have something's going on with it. Like I can't grasp things that have any weight to them with my right hand. And that's my dominant hand. And so I've noticed that my non-dominant hand is doing a lot more recently because I haven't been able to use my right hand. So doing things like picking up the milk jug with your non-dominant hand. You can focus on improving your posture throughout the day. Make yourself do something you don't want to do, like go do the dishes or clean up around you or help somebody with a task. You can read one additional article or news story per day. Do something that you find difficult to do, like maybe stop and listen before you speak, or plan an activity if you're not particularly good at that. Say something nice to somebody. Make yourself get up at a certain time. Learn how to do something new, like fix something on your car or create a new piece of artwork that you've never tried that style before. Do something that's just a little bit challenging for you. So here are the questions. I want you to, on your own sheet of paper or in your journal, identify some areas where you need self-control strength to change your substance use. Like, where do you need self-control? This is going to be your trigger situations. The second question is to identify 2 things you can do this week to strengthen your self-control muscle. And that's the list of things that I just gave you on the last slide, or you can pick your own. And then the third question is to identify some daily activities and struggles where you are using your self-control muscle already to manage your cope. Like, think about your day. Where are you already utilizing self-control? So take a few moments to answer those questions in your journal. Feel free to share your responses below in the comments section. So today we talked about self-control. We identified areas where we may need improvement in strengthening our self-control muscle. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to put them in the comments section below or send me a message. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, guys.